Hello, a Clockwork Peon here. So again, welcome to the channel, welcome to my video. So I want to make a quick kind of commentary and just observation regarding what I just kind of went through the past couple weeks at a company who I was hired by on a temporary position named Lumen. Lumen Technologies, and under that, of course, they have CenturyLink and Quantum Fiber, which is new to the Des Moines area, to this Des Moines market. So, and I was hired through a company called Apex. And, I was thinking about how much difficulty I had in working with this company, not only Lumen, but also Apex, the third party company who I was hired through. And again, full disclosure, this morning, it just wasn't working out. So they terminated the employment. And, when I got to really thinking about how this is so indicative and really like a microcosm and representative of the job market on the whole, whether we're talking about human resources, whether we're talking about training and onboarding programs, this is something that's happening more and more, similar to what my experiences were. So I guess to really start with, again, just the background, I was hired through Apex to do door-to-door sales. They paid pretty generously. The pay was fine. It was like 30 something an hour, just to go knock doors and sign people up for internet. Sounds simple enough, right? One of the things that I've been noticing, that's a problem with so many companies, and in terms of just finding people, but not just finding people, but in terms of keeping good people and recognizing talent when they see talent, it's almost non-existent, because what's going on is we have a lot of people in personnel, in trainings, who are, in roles of management, who do not have the temperament, who do not have the skill level or the understanding or just the personality or the aptitude to work with people and to really find solutions. They check boxes. They're yes people. They essentially only know how to navigate within a tiny, tiny, narrow window of their limited competencies. So, here to kind of tie this into the larger thing too, without going on too many side tangents or stream of consciousness, side comments or side divulgences of conversation, but this is indicative of the economy. We just had over 4% unemployment rate, and again, for any of you who are aware of how economic statistics or the job market works, the unemployment rate is not a proper indication of whether or not people are working. There is another rate which is much, much more representative of reality on the ground level, and that's the job or workforce participation rate. So we look at the workforce participation rate, and it is very low. And I want to say I last checked, and I can look and be fact checked on this, but I want to say it's about 60%, which again, 60% is a very low workforce participation rate. So there's a lot of myths out there. Why aren't people working? Why aren't people staying at one job? Again, the whole concept of a golden watch, someone who's been with a company for 2, 3, 4 decades, a long time, is really going the way of the buffalo. It's something that's becoming a quick thing of the past. And looking at so many of these companies, when talking to people, you'll talk to an employee or someone who's been there maybe 3 months, 4 months, perhaps a year, maybe 2 years. And I'm thinking to myself, having come from the first time I participated in the workforce being in the 1990s, okay, when I was in high school, very young kid. And to me, the people that the first employers that I had, and these were decent jobs. It wasn't just, working McDonald's, and there's nothing wrong with that by any means, but these were jobs at newspapers. These were sales jobs. These were, decent jobs, of course, in public education. There had been people there for, you would talk to someone, how long you been here? Oh, 5 years. Oh, cool. How long have you worked at this company? 10 years. Oh, okay. Oh, hey, you've been here 20 years. You've been here 30, 40 years. And that's really unheard of right now in the workforce. We're talking a workforce where here in 2024, if a person's been with a company for half a year, for 6 months, they're practically a veteran. We're seeing this not only with entry level jobs, but we're also seeing this with, white collar jobs, gray collar jobs, skilled trade jobs. We're seeing this with office jobs, with, I guess you might want to say, jobs that require a specific skill set or licensure or apprenticeship. We're seeing this across the board. We're seeing this in jobs where people are making 15 an hour. We're seeing this in jobs where people are making six figures, or at least close to six figures. And I do want to tie this back to my experience at Lumen and Apex and so much of what's going on. And I don't necessarily want to completely blame or tie this into either millennials or Gen Z, or, and I'm an old millennial, or even Gen Xers being the head honchos in the workforce right now. But I really wonder if there's a disconnect. And I think COVID, after so many people retired early during COVID, during all the lockdowns and the shutdowns, and kind of just a reworking or reimagining of the workforce, I think so many of the people who maybe injected the workforce with a little bit of common sense, empathy, humanity, some of the stability that came from previous institutions or the wisdom of the past, I think that just had a very unnatural departure from the workforce, where what we're seeing now is a very rapidly accelerated change in the workforce. And not only that, but the people who are responsible for training and bringing these employees into the company or into the workforce. So to kind of cut to the chase here with my experience at Lumen just now would be the role was fine. It was door-to-door sales. And I was kind of jotting down some things here. I have just a little note here of things that were not provided. Well, first of all, in the onboarding process, getting the authenticator set up, getting the email set up, getting the Salesforce apps set up, and then there was an ASAP door tracker and where we would process sales through, before, in Microsoft Teams as well. And the thing is, before I'm even performing the functions of the job, we're using 5, 6, 7 different pieces of technology for communication, which is amazing to me, because you would think that the logic part of your brain would understand that sometimes over communication is no communication. And maybe that's where we've gotten to the fact, I have Microsoft Teams, I have Microsoft Outlook, I have maybe phone calls, text messages, our Salesforce app that they're communicating through, and then the ASAP app that we're communicating through. So, and there's no consistency, or there's no guidelines or structure in what will be communicated through what app or through which outlet. And again, that's a big problem. And as I had said, I'm an old millennial, but imagine if someone who is, and again, I don't want to stereotype, because I do understand that there are plenty of people who are in their 60s, 70s, who are well-versed and very skilled with technology. But again, if we look at law of averages, or if we look at the law of large numbers, the younger you are, the more proficient you tend to be with some of the current day technologies, whether that's authenticators. Before probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, I had never heard of an authenticator. I had never heard of two-step verification. To me, a two-step was a dance, one I never participated in. But the point is, these are things that are so commonplace in the workforce that someone who perhaps is, changing careers, maybe they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. Right now, we have so many people, I alluded to, or I discussed in a previous video, about how so many people who are in their 70s and 80s are in the workforce. There's not a lot of training for these people who are very skilled and very proficient at a specific job to even go through the process to get onboarded or have the skills necessary, the technology skills. Again, I didn't get a smartphone until I was, darn near 40. Okay, so in, 2020? The summer of 2020, in the middle of COVID, was the first time I had ever had a smartphone. And again, I'm late to the game on that, but there are millions of us out there, okay? Millions of us out there. So I always found it a bit of a dismissal and a bit of a oversimplification to explain that, people who aren't working, they're lazy, they don't want to work, they don't try, they don't care, they're not good workers, they're not good employees. I always thought that was a bit of a myth, and I always thought that there is something else, because human beings, we have these pickers and stillers, and of course idle hands make for devil's work, right? But we are designed with these pickers and stillers to go and produce, to do something productive, to go and create, to go and build, to cooperate, to create institutions in which we go and accomplish goals, right? As human beings, we have that natural drive. Whether it's a CEO who's making $1 million a year, whether it's someone who's in the skilled trades such as a framer, an electrician, a plumber, an HVAC person who, in all reality are making 6 figures a year, or whether it's just the person who is working in those entry-level jobs in retail at Walmart, at McDonald's, etc., and including the people who are at home not working and not involved in the workforce participation. These are people who have an instinctual drive to go and work, okay? Again, I get so tired of the myth that there are all these people who aren't working are lazy, they're on welfare, they just want to reap benefits. Yes, that is true in some cases. That is not true in most cases. Most people want to work. I've dealt with so many people throughout my life, interacted with thousands of people by name, been in charge of people, and I can tell you most people do want to work. So I bring this back to the Lumen onboarding process as a microcosm of the greater whole, or as an example of something that is going on holistically in our economy and our workforce. So having all these, apps that we're using on your phone and a job that essentially is through the phone, through the tablet, through the computer, okay, fine. But again, think about the skill level it takes, not just the knowledge of that or the experience of that, but there is a certain skill level and aptitude to run all these programs. And again, think about all the people who don't necessarily have either the IQ or the intelligence level or the aptitude with technology who do want to go and work. So with Lumen, we had so we're using 5-6 different apps. Okay. So we go through training, and again, what they did is they had a person who was very good at sales go and do the training, okay? So again, we're looking at the Peter Principle, and again, as to remind you, and you can Google it, but the Peter Principle is when someone is very skilled and proficient at their job, and then they're promoted to the next hierarchical step in that company, so the next promotion up. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at that role. Just because they're good at this role B, does not mean they're going to be good at role A, especially if that role A requires an entirely different skill set. If someone's good at sales, that does not mean they can teach. That does not mean they can explain higher level concepts to others and to articulate those concepts in a way that's very digestible for an average person to understand. And again, assuming that people know things is one of the biggest mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes people do in onboarding and training and teaching and human resources, to go and assume that someone knows what a 2-step verification is, what an authenticator is, how to download or go into an app store and do all these things. It might seem common sense to most people, but therein lies a problem, because if you're going to train someone, if you're going to help someone along and get them to the point where they can perform the functions of the job, and where they can have that gap between onboarding, between getting acclimated to the culture of a workforce to where their skills are, if you can bridge that gap, that's great. But so many places and so many trainers can't. Especially, and again, I don't mean to berate anyone's age, but again, you see it more common than not. If you're a trainer, if the person onboarding you is 25, 30, 35 years old, and they're working with someone who's 45, 50, 60, 65, who might not just know those words or might not understand what those processes are, you as the trainer, your job, not only to that employee, not only to the responsibility you have yourself to perform the job, and not only to the company to make sure that the company is having the talented people be able to get to the point where they can meet their skills and perform their jobs. But if you as a trainer, if you cannot bridge that gap, that's not a good look. That's not a good process. That's not what we should have. But we're seeing this all over the workforce right now. And again, it could be the Peter principle because, as I said, someone who performs a job well does not necessarily know how to teach that job. They don't necessarily know how to train that job, and they certainly don't necessarily know just how to, again, get information to someone where they can understand it. So going back to Lumen, we were told to go out, knock doors, okay, make sales. Well, first of all, the iPad that I had did not work. I had mentioned on a Friday that it didn't work, and a whole week went by. It still did not work. I had mentioned this multiple times because it was not connecting to cellular data. Here's a link. We'll send you a link. Okay, this link goes to a website, and there are 1,000 different pages and places to go with the link. You know, if you're trying to teach someone to do something and then you just copy and paste a link and say, hey, here it is, here's where you figure it out, you as a leader, you don't assume people figure this out. Questions that I had: is there a tech office? Is there a person I can talk to in the Des Moines area? You know, this manager that I had I'm sure he was a great person. As a leader, as a manager, he was awful. But you think, okay, I asked him, is there a place I can go in the Des Moines area? You know, we have a 10-story building downtown, and it has the word Lumen on the side of it. And I said, is there a place I can go to get face-to-face help? And again, I never met the guy in person, right? There's always this barrier in a lot of workforces and a lot of the online remote learning. There's this barrier, and there is some human element, there is some human connection that goes missing, and it might be intangible, it might be a sort of energy, it might be something, a vibe that people have that is lost when you are not face-to-face in reality, when you are simply interacting with someone through a screen. For instance, I'm talking to you through a screen, all 2 of my loyal followers. It's still not quite the personal connection as having someone in a real physical, 3-dimensional, tangible world, okay? So again, there was no help on this. There was no response. Can I go into an office? Can I talk to someone? It was completely ignored. The other thing, I had asked about polos, so I'm not just wearing a Russell or an Under Armour shirt or, just a brandless cheap polo that I got at Walmart, trying to knock doors in 90-degree, 100-degree Iowa heat with, 90% humidity. They said, oh, here's a link. Okay, well, it took me a while, and of course my wife had to help me figure this out, bless her heart, because she is far more adept at technology than I am. And it took her a little bit to figure out how to order things. And then I said, okay, what about flyers? What about business cards? When I was out knocking, and I did not have a Lumen brand apparel on because, again, my requests for that were pretty much ignored. When I did finally get it ordered, here we are. We're sitting on, it's Monday, August 5th, and I had ordered them not last Tuesday, but the Tuesday before that. So we're going on 13 days. I had ordered polos, and I still do not have them in the mail. Now, again, let me ask you, if someone walks up to your door, and if someone says, I work for XYZ company, but if they do not have any kind of identifying XYZ apparel, okay, are you going to believe them? Probably not. You tell me you go and work for XYZ company. Well, where's your brand apparel? Where's your company apparel? If you're door-to-door sales, do you have a vehicle that is marked XYZ? With the amount of identity theft that's going on, with the amount of fraudsters that are going on, with the amount of people who, could be out pretending they're someone they're not, casing homes. And again, I made a video earlier. Most people who do knock on your door, they are legitimate. But let's not pretend that those illegitimate things don't happen, because in reality, we know they do. So if I'm knocking on your door and I have nothing to identify me in brand apparel or anything, that's going to not only, first of all, create a sense of skepticism at the door, but if my job is to sell you something, if my role is to sell you a product, it's going to be harder to gain that trust to sell a product if I don't even look the part, right? They did have a little badge, which, by the way, it was kind of interesting. The Lumen badge they gave me had my last name on it. And anyone, all two of you, anyone who's ever knocked doors can tell you that, with all the eye rings and everything out there, you don't know who is on the other side of the door. Again, most people are good when you're out knocking doors. Most people are awesome, but you don't know. You could get that one crazy person, and now they have your name, not only your first name, but last name. And again, it's just like if you go to any company, whether you go to Walmart, Target, Scheels, Bass Pro, Menards, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever company you go to, those companies, it's only going to have the employee's first name. They don't need to know the last name. Now, once, of course, we get to the point where we're in a transaction phase, or it's like you're very interested in the product, I've gained your trust that you're not a crazy person that's opening up your front door. You've gained my trust that I'm not a crazy person who's coming to your front door. Now, fine, I can hand out a business card that would have my last name on it instead of a badge that would be clear as day with no brand apparel and no other single item identifying who I am. So again, I thought that was really strange. And just a potential privacy and safety risk for Lumen to go ahead and put our last name on these little badge cards we had too. So that was kind of really something that I looked at and said, well, why are we doing that? And speaking of cards, business cards, I had a lady that asked that, hey, do you have a business card? I'm really interested in getting this. I just kind of want to know who you are. And I said, well, no, I don't have a business card. I'm new. I'm in training. They haven't sent me anything yet. So I go back that very evening after I'm done knocking doors, and I explain to Lumen, the manager and the trainer, okay, and not only the manager trainer, both at Lumen, but the recruiter who's at Apex, and I say, hey, I have no business cards. I have no door hangers or door flyers. I'm knocking on these people's door. How are they going to verify and know that I am who I am? Well, we don't know. Maybe here's a link. The link doesn't work, of course. It's like, oh, the trainer says, well, we'll make sure they get ordered for you. And then a few days go by, just, double check. Hey, I still don't have anything yet. Did it go to order? No, we don't really know. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. We're not sure. Yeah, we'll get back to you, okay? And again, no one ever got back to me. The communication was absolutely horrible too. And again, in addition to the iPad, it wasn't working connecting on cellular data. So I had nothing. The other thing that had happened too is our manager, the supervisor, was really discussing some of these things with one of the other salespeople in the Des Moines market that I had to shadow. He said something like, so you're slow, you're not figuring out, you haven't got much done, that sort of thing. And I said, well, first of all, it's not really any of, your concern, because we worry about trying to get our own accomplishments done, our own sales. But second of all, at Lumen, what that is telling me is, I have a supervisor who is discussing job performance with someone who is lateral to me and someone who also, of course, subsequently is being supervised by this person. Think of it like this. Let's say you're a teacher, right? And let's say you as a teacher go and talk to one of your students about another student's grade or performance. Let's say you're a boss and you have a whole team, okay, that you're in charge of and that you're supervising, that you're evaluating. And within that supervisory and evaluation process, you talk to another employee about a different employee's performance and evaluation. Okay, that is wrong, and that happened at Lumen. Mm-hmm. So that happened to the salesperson who was working out of the Omaha office, by the way, too. And this is another thing that's going on, too, that I see in the workforce as well. A lot of it with this idea of remote. You might have a boss who's half a country away, half a world away. Maybe they're just in another state. But a lot of times you don't have anyone immediate that you can go talk to or have a discussion in or a face-to-face with or that sort of thing as well. So we're seeing this a lot, and I thought, my experience, my horrible experience at this company called Lumen, they're also known as CenturyLink, or Quantum Fiber actually. So I had to figure this out too because it wasn't explained to me. Because again, the communication was so horrible. But under Lumen, you have CenturyLink, which does the traditional cable internet, and then also under Lumen, you have Quantum Fiber, which was what I was to be selling. Made it my best attempt to go out and do and perform the job, even though I was not allowed to or not given the tools and resources to do that job. But certainly, Quantum Fiber, they are the ones who do Quantum Fiber. The cable optics, so the light through glass, high-speed internet. They have a couple. One's like about 500 megabytes per second. The other one's about a gig per second or just under. So again, all these things are so indicative of what's going on in the job market. So I think one of the types of things that the next step to this would be, I really hope that companies, employers look at some of these issues and find out, hey, we're losing talent. We're losing top-notch talent, and we need to do better. And, there's no sense of responsibility in terms of looking at how trainers are performing their job, how managers are performing their job. It's simply this cold metrics. And the metrics are not even accurate. They can be cooked. Again, I indicated how, the old saying, there's lies, there's statistics, lies, and damn lies, or lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? Sorry, I kind of George W. Bush that one there, but it is true. As I said, the unemployment rate, 4%. Oh, okay. 3%. Oh, okay. But again, we can mismatch and misrepresent statistics, because let's look at the workforce participation rate, and then you're going to have a real measure. And I think a lot of companies are measuring some of their talent in this way too when it comes time to assess them. So again, I wanted to bring that up. That's my experience of working through Lumen, hired through Apex on a temporary assignment, which again, that's another thing that's happening in our workforce too. As I continue to kind of do this not a deep dive, but kind of getting into the thicket of it with some of the workforce in our economy and how that's looking, is that so many people are not hired on with companies. They're hired through temp agencies or third-party agencies, and the right hand doesn't necessarily know what the left hand's doing. In this case, Apex doesn't know what Lumen's doing. Lumen doesn't know what Apex is doing. So it's really a mess out there, and I'm a firm believer in the American dream. I'm a firm believer in work, and I'm a firm believer. I'm kind of an optimist by nature, but right now there's a lot of cynicism out there, and if I can speak, there's a lot of cynicism out there, and of course there's a lot of things that are happening in the workforce that, 10, 20 years ago, even probably 5 years ago, pre-COVID, that they happened, right? Like, these things have always happened. Bad managers are nothing new. Bad onboarding, bad training, poor communication. These are not new, but I will tell you what is new in this brave new world, this brave new post-COVID-19 workforce and economic area that we're living in. What is new is how prevalent that is and how common it is. So again, thank you for watching A Clockwork Peon. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you're able to. And maybe someday I'll have 3 viewers instead of 2. Wouldn't that be amazing? And again, if you have any ideas for videos, or if you want any comments or insights into anything, please don't hesitate to comment or message me for anything else. And again, A Clockwork Peon signing out. Thank you.